You know that I do a series called From the Other Side. That's my privilege to talk to some great men who will give their perspective on any number of topics. This time, I am grateful that the Reverend Dr. Timothy Sloan is here with us and sharing from a personal space. I'm at the Loop, y'all. I'm right here on site. And thank you so much for making time to be with me here. It's been a while.
Yeah, well, I am honored and so grateful that you considered me to have this conversation.
Absolutely.
Excited about what we're going to share today.
I am too. I think it's well overdue. I can say to all of you, I have never had this much time in your presence for a real conversation. We have seen each other back and forth here or there. This gentleman came to Houston
Mhm.
and stopped at the Wheeler Avenue
Yeah.
Baptist Church and spent some time there before the Lord called you to this great work. So give us the short story because I know it's a journey. I
Yeah.
know it's a journey, but give us the short story about how you landed in Houston. And at that time, you didn't have children. Where were you? How long were you married? Let's give us that little
Yeah.
inside scoop.
Yeah.
We need some of that.
Well, post undergrad, and
Mm-hmm.
I just graduated from Morehouse and come home preparing to head off to seminary. And I meet this beautiful woman, of course. But we've known each other our whole life.
Oh, okay.
And so
Wait,
I,
wait, wait. Hold on. You knew each other your whole life, but didn't really get
we've,
together.
right, we've
Woo!
known each other. We went to schools, competing schools. Her family was a good friend of mine, but had never had long
Okay.
conversations. So, anyways, we met at church after I'd preached at
Nice.
her church, and the rest is history as
Uh
far as
huh.
that goes. But when we decided to get married, I was in New Jersey, and she was in med school here at the University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston. So one of us had to move, and it was me, as we can see, and that was in 1997. So I came back here and then headed back to seminary. I was in law school and seminary at the same time,
Wow.
and finished up in '98.
Wow.
And so when we finally established our roots here in Houston, the first place we went was Wheeler Avenue
That's
Baptist
awesome.
Church, and that became my launching pad for
It
ministry.
did. And I'm amazed. I said, wow, because listen, Dr. Sonia, hey sis, that's my September
Yes.
birthday buddy. Um, just to think that medical school, seminary, and law school, that is a powerful mix, and I'm sure a draining one. I'm sure it was,
Listen, the intensified life.
sir. Did y'all hear that?
It was intense.
I'm sure it was.
Yeah, but well worth the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So tell us now, you are at the Luke. You've been here for 21 years. Houston is home now.
it
I'm
is.
after that long.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's almost 26 years now that
Yes.
we've been here in Houston. So I am a Houstonian and grateful for it. And so we've established our roots here, raised our children here,
Yes.
and we're not going
Raised our children here. Now, this is from the other side, my special Father's Day edition. I wanted to specifically get into that because coming here as a newlywed couple, young and doing all this, and then starting a family, and you have two daughters and one son.
right.
Now, girl dad, that hashtag and all of that has become very popular recently, but
Right.
I want to talk just from your heart. Here, let me hear from you what it's been like to raise girls because you had only two girls for a while, for a
Right,
little while.
right. So when we finally got to the point where we were able to have children, and Sarah was born in 2005. So we've been married, what's that, 8 years? And when Sarah was born, it was like my first major
Mm.
responsibility that at times felt overwhelming.
Mm.
What am I going to do with this precious little life that God has entrusted to me? But one of the greatest joys. And so um, Sarah along comes Soren 2 years later, and now I'm a girl dad twice. And for so long now, for 2012, before Tim J was born, it was just us four.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
so I
remember that.
really I really embraced that journey. And I mean, even now, it's just it's a unique relationship between a father and a daughter, one that is extreme joy, but a major challenge because I was never exposed
Right.
to the interactional process.
Right.
So trying to discern and figure out how to engage in this relationship and to nurture, your daughters and to be that example
Hmm.
that you want for them to have.
Yeah. So when you did have a son, he's now what, 10?
He's 11 now.
11.
Yeah.
I remember when I
when he was
remember when
when he was
yes, I
born.
remember.
Yeah.
Now that you are raising a son, what are the differences that you have experienced and you see in, or are there any?
Yeah, I don't know that I can immediately put my finger on it. All your children are different.
Hmm.
So Sarah, Soren, and Tim J are all totally different kids. And now as Sarah and Soren get into their um, high school and now college years,
Yes.
um, there are different challenges that come along with it. So Tim J is still now transitioning out of elementary school now into middle school. And for your sons, as a father, you're trying to nurture certain things in your son and expose them to certain challenges and
Hmm. Hmm.
responsibilities as now a matriculating young man.
Yes.
So for your daughters, you're trying to be conscious of the things that they need
Hmm.
and listening so you can be as attentive as possible,
Hmm.
attentive as possible.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You strike me as one who probably has a very open relationship with your children, as they probably would say. And I don't know this, but I'm
Yeah.
just sensing here. They probably feel like they could come to dad with just about anything, huh?
I've always hoped that,
Yeah.
I've wanted it to be where Sarah or Soren or Tim J will be able to come in and say, "Listen, I've got this issue,
Hmm.
and that I want you to help me to hold it."
Hmm.
So I've tried to do that, tried to make that space. Of course, there are times you're trying to figure out, get feedback.
Hmm.
Hey, do you feel like you can dialogue with your dad? And then you have times where you got to be honest and recognize at this particular point, maybe I'm always trying to offer a solution when they're not looking for
Right.
a solution. So trying to nurture that open space, but not have them feel like it's always going to come with a lecture.
Yes.
Um,
Just a listening ear, just present.
and that is a big piece for me in the journey I've taken with Sarah, is discovering how important it is to listen. I mean, that's a pivotal principle for us
Yeah,
to
for
learn
everybody.
in communicating with anyone. I mean, in any relationship, listening is should be a priority.
Yeah.
But with your children, it plays a very important role, and learning to do that is not as easy, I think, as we think it is. You know.
So I'm glad you said that, because I was going to ask what specifically, if you can pinpoint anything that you knew that you needed to do intentionally to make sure that you invested in them so that they could grow to a place to have confidence to come to you with anything. Were there any markers or specific things that you did?
Well, the number one thing I think for me um, has always been presence.
Eh, yes.
So, I when Sarah was born, we were already 3 years into ministry, a ministry that was quickly
Yeah.
growing and now meeting some really difficult challenges. So, learning to be present as she grew and as the children grew up, and not allow my responsibilities
Mm,
in occupationally to um, move them aside.
right.
So
Right.
I've always done my very best to be present.
Yeah.
If you've got a dance recital, I think one thing all of my kids can say is, if nothing else, I knew he was there,
That's
and I knew
awesome.
he would. If not at the beginning, he was going to be there.
At some point,
Yeah,
dad is going to show
yeah,
up.
yeah. You'll hear that actually in the book. Sarah talks about how I could always count on hearing his voice,
Hmm.
cheering me on.
So before we go there, I want to,
Yeah.
you mentioned a couple of things I want to just touch on briefly. First of all, a new church, a growing church, a booming church, and then some challenges and moving past that. And whew, there are two sides I want to deal with. First of all, I want to talk about how was it, again, Dr. Dr. Sonia is her own
That's right.
force. So how could two very demanding careers come together to provide a safe space for children? And I think this is for anyone who is in a demanding career. It could be like the Huxtables, the doctor and the
Yeah.
lawyer. It could be just two supervisors, CEOs, or entrepreneurs. When you're trying to establish a young family, how did you all learn to work together to make sure that you could provide that for your children?
um, I, we were learning, and we're still learning.
Yeah.
Um, you learn by successes and failures,
Mm-hmm.
and learning to evaluate how you're engaging your children, engaging your relationship, and creating space for them. So and here's the interesting thing is that so often we try to take the formula we had
Yes.
growing up and just simply place it upon this, and that never works because so many different changes. And if
Mm-hmm.
it's not just changes in you, it's changes in seasons in
Yes.
society. So where I may have grew up in a generation that was, outside, and we had 33 albums and cassette tapes. This is a generation who everything is online
Yes.
and streaming, and they're really locked into their phones. So you're learning to engage with them, but also I think we can admit that we had to learn
Mm-hmm.
how to properly place our occupational responsibilities so that we could continue to succeed, because you want to succeed.
Yes.
I mean, you've worked your whole life to be successful, but you also want your children to know that they are a vital part of every decision you make,
Mm-hmm.
and the journey, they're
Mm-hmm.
also a part of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's just a learning process. We've also tried to guard our personal space,
Yes.
um, but also providing access so that they learn how to engage with others and learn that tool. So,
That's good.
so again, growing up, I didn't, I came out of a single parent home. And so, my father wasn't there, just me and my mom. So now learning to engage, in marital
Right,
responsibilities,
right,
and then be a father too, which I
right.
didn't see.
And a pastor where you have the same dynamics for
Yeah,
people who are looking to you to be a
yeah,
somewhat of an example as well.
absolutely.
Oh, God bless you. God bless you. The other side of that, when you said earlier, you said, you went through some things in the church life, and out of that, I believe, came a book.
Yeah.
I have it right here. Let me show y'all. Let me show y'all. Let me show. Don't sleep on this.
Yeah, yeah,
Stand, learning to lead through conflict, and
yeah.
this forward is actually by William
William
Lawson, my
Alexander
beloved
Lawson.
founding pastor and
Yeah.
a giant in the faith himself. Tell me a little bit about what you personally, just the primary nugget that helped to sustain you as you were not only walking through it, but what gave you the inspiration for this.
So I think, growing a church and quickly growing, coming into a very traditional um, congregation, you have people who are holding on to a lot of traditionalism and also power. So engaging in that and trying to fulfill your responsibility to God, that's what I'm called to do,
Amen.
but also to be cognizant of people and their life and how it has been
Mm-hmm.
intertwined with
Mm-hmm.
this ministry.
Mm-hmm.
And I discovered that conflict is inevitable.
Inevitable.
And that is the thesis of this book. Conflict is inevitable. You have to have it, but learning how to navigate
Yes, sir.
it is your responsibility.
Yes, sir.
And as a young pastor who hadn't really been um, seen a lot of the movements pastorally, Pastor Lawson gave me the great privilege to come alongside of
Mm-hmm.
him for a moment before I transitioned. But I've just made the decision. I'm not going to leave when it got to a point where
Good.
the church wanted to say, let's just disconnect, not realizing that that had been what they've done in the past. This was their
Oh.
formula. Hey, church grows, we disconnect, but it wasn't because they didn't like the leaders, because they were afraid of losing power.
Mm.
So I made the decision based off of um, Jehoshaphat in
All
Second
right.
Chronicles, making the decision, after praying and
Yes,
fasting.
sir.
Jehaziel tells him, just go out and stand. And that's the decision I made, is to stand and listen to God, and allow God to help you navigate it.
Stand, because conflict is inevitable.
Inevitable. And so
Inevitable.
I share my transparent story in that book, but I also help to show leaders how to journey through some of the things I learned in the fire.
Yeah. So how you said in the fire. Now I have to say this because I've been repeating it a few times recently. Anytime I hear about going through the fire, I remember being in a worship service, and the psalmist at the time was sharing her testimony, and she said she learned when you go through the fire. No, you would go when you go through hell, you come out on fire.
Mm,
And I think there are conflicts that God ordains for our lives so that we can be purged and pruned, so we can come out on fire. Because when you've stood on the other side of that, you just have so much more power in yourself. Not the
yeah,
not the power that people try to hold on to, but
yeah,
that intimacy with God,
yeah.
that I know kind of stuff.
Dr. Keisha, that is so on point. I had to go through
Mm-hmm.
that, and I am so grateful that I went through it and the lessons that it taught me about leadership and about leading people
Mm-hmm.
and being present for them in
Mm-hmm.
their life. And going through that, it really helped to prune me
Mm-hmm.
of, whatever mindset I had or whatever ideals I had about how church should be
Yes.
and relationships develop. Um, but I learned how to pray and fast through that. That season, those challenges, and continue, they have taught me the importance of staying on my face,
Yes, sir.
learning the
Yes, sir.
discipline of fasting,
Yes, sir.
and I recognize I cannot do this without
Yes.
a discipline for um, praying and fasting,
Yes, sir.
fasting and
Yes,
praying.
sir. Yes, sir. Seeking God,
Yeah,
like getting in the face.
yeah,
Yes, yes.
yeah.
Ooh,
Some
you
people
blessed me with
probably
that.
say coming out of that, some of my better sermons,
I,
because
really?
it pushes
Yes.
you, it causes you to say, listen, you have one um, responsibility, and that is to come before God and offer yourself in a surrendered capacity. So, yeah, I'm grateful.
That is the essence of Intensified Life
Yeah.
TV. That is the essence. And we didn't rehearse this, so I didn't know where
No,
you were going, but this
no.
is real. This is the essence
Yeah.
of why I do what I do. And I feel like I am led when I want to connect with people, because there is something that everybody has to be mindful of. And that is what you just said.
And here's the other piece. Learning that fundamental principle of praying and fasting was not just for my ministry responsibility. It was for
Yes,
my family,
yes,
for whatever ambition
yes.
that I have, and everything that
Life,
concerns my
life.
life. Yeah, you learn how to pray and fast and teach your family how to do that. Yeah, yeah. So
Thank you for that.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you for that. Shameless plug here. I actually have a series about fasting, spiritual fasting, different from intermittent fasting,
Mm,
that's popular now. And I'd encourage some of you to check it out. It is, you'll understand why we connect and have such passion in this
yeah,
point, because it is for life. It
yeah,
is for life.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I want to turn now because I have to focus on your second book,
Yeah.
which is also with your first daughter.
Right.
And again, because this is a season to celebrate fathers, I want to know what inspired you to co author with your firstborn.
Yeah. Well, a couple things. You know, when the pandemic hit, it caused everyone to slow down
Yes.
and, take a good look at your personal life and your relationships and help them. And so I started realizing I've got a moment here to make some major memories,
Yes.
but also to make sure that I'm nurturing our relationship properly. So, you know what I did? I went and bought every book I could find on how to be the dad.
Really?
And I mean, I bought books on how to be the best father to your daughter, how to
Really?
make sure that your daughters see themselves as a young queen in the making. All these different things, how to cook with your kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking I'll learn this, and then I realized let's start at the very beginning, and that
Mm.
is connecting and making sure, as we talked earlier, that they feel like I can dialogue with you, and that we just walk together. But it all begins with not just our relationship, dad and daughter, but our relationship with the
Yes,
Father.
yes, yes.
And so we made the decision, let's start spending time praying together.
Wow.
And so we went on a journey of praying together about challenges, about lessons that I want her to hear. And as the process goes along, we start seeing how much our relationship is changing because we've made our faith
Right,
our priority.
right.
That is going to be the glue that keeps us close. And our everything just started changing. We start going on bike rides. We start having conversations late at night. We're praying together. We're having those little inside jokes.
Yes,
And when we finally come through this, we said, "Listen, we think other dads and daughters could
absolutely.
benefit from this." And so we decided, let's write this. And God just put that thing in. I mean, he set it up because once we went through it,
Right,
then we were connected to a publisher
right.
who says, "I want you to share that story," and everything just starts happening. Here's a couple pieces to that. I wanted this to be something that not only speaks to other dads and daughters and the importance of developing that relationship, but also giving my daughter an opportunity to have a platform
Yes,
to be launched into her future.
yes. And I am so grateful. Um, there are many ways that what you have said
Yeah,
blesses me because I know people who have strained relationships. I know because of life choices,
yeah,
sometimes sickness
yeah.
and illness, creates a gulf. Sometimes, unfortunately, divorce,
Hmm. Hmm.
and you have to work harder. But the intentionality to begin with the spiritual, with your faith, with praying, going
Hmm.
to God.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think that there are any bonds in earth that are stronger than those that are tied, grounded, rooted in the Lord.
Yeah.
And then to out of that, it seems that it's very organic that it would then
Hmm.
evolve into something beautiful. It's like you were rooted in God together,
Hmm.
growing.
Hmm.
And then obviously what's of the spirit is going to bear fruit, right?
Yeah.
And bless
Yeah.
others. And
Yeah.
so now we have this really beautiful book. And I love the title, Closer to You.
Yeah.
Closer to you, Dad, but of course, closer to God.
Yeah. You want to know how that
Oh,
happened?
yes, of course.
So here's how the title came about. So, we've gone through it now. We've written, and first of all, my daughter is an incredible writer
I know.
that we find that this out. And then the publisher says we need a title, and we're trying to figure out what is the title. So she's so busy with school. Finally, she comes home and we're outside on the patio. And I was like, Sarah, we got to come up with a title. We're sitting there thinking and jotting down stuff. And then we start to realize a year ago when we were sitting on this patio, I would sit over here, you would sit
Wow.
over there. And then we just looked up and said, we are so close now, closer to you. So where we are in relation to one another has changed. That's the title, Dad, closer to you. That's, that's exciting to me, not just reminiscing about that,
Yeah.
about how us going on that journey and prioritizing our faith together and being present for one another in that journey, um, has led us closer. And let me say, in response to what you said, that Sarah and I both have said in numerous conversations publicly that this is not about us being perfect. We took this journey and we transparently learned a lot and gave a lot to one another. My daughter taught me about grace, and my daughter taught me how to afford grace to someone.
Mm.
I'm not a perfect dad, and I've got my challenges, and you want to do things right, but you make mistakes.
Hmm.
And she had taught me in that process about how when God affords grace to us, we afford it to others,
Amen.
and we learn how to
Yeah.
love each other through those challenges. You
Beautiful.
know,
I am. I want to go back to something else you said a moment ago. Forgive me.
no,
um, there's a word I want to put out here. And to me, it's not just platform,
Mhm.
because it's awesome that you were even thinking about her future in that way.
Yeah.
Um, some might say you have the privilege of doing that because you have been blessed to pastor. There are
Mhm.
some ways that your schedule allows you some flexibility, and
Mhm.
you can think about those things. There are a lot of brothers who are struggling. They're
Mhm.
trying to hold it together. They're working. They're trying to
Yeah.
bear up what they have now, let alone think about legacy and platform. What would you say to encourage them? Because there are small ways maybe we can
Mhm.
think about.
Yeah.
They may not be able to write a book and,
Right.
and set that type of platform, but there might be other ways that you can inspire them.
Yeah, there are so many different ways that we can help set our children up for long-term success and use what we have. And I've always said you start somewhere, start with whatever you have. Of course, in this process is discernment,
Mm-hmm.
but there are little things you can do to give your children exposure. So
Mm.
exposing them to these
Exposure.
things. So exposing my daughter to the process. I gave her a little quote years ago about reading. I wrote that on a card when she was a kid, and I watched that now she's a 17-year-old graduate from high school, and she still has that card that I gave her about the importance of books. So, exposing them and them seeing, hey, this is an opportunity for me to share my voice with the world.
Right.
So when we expose our children in whatever capacity that is, if you're, you read so many stories about dads who may put away a little bit of money to
Mm-hmm.
help their children learn
Mm-hmm.
about financial stability, long-term wealth,
Right.
and you can find a number of different ways to teach your children
Mm-hmm.
about that, to invest in their financial future.
Right.
So
Right. There's so many
there's
ways.
so many ways.
And I think that the beauty of it, in another layer of this, is again, you were in a single parent household.
Mhm.
So it's not like you had someone modeling this for you in your home. But I believe when you have a determination to do it differently, and you are seeking God about it, and you
Yeah,
want to raise a generation, and I guess really honor God in stewarding the family that you have, you're open.
yeah,
There's an openness to seeking and learning and connecting with other great leaders. Again,
yeah,
William Lawson and some others, taking
yeah,
advantage of every opportunity you have in whatever setting or
yeah,
context you have. And your children benefit from that. Like what you may not have had personally, they gain because you were open
yeah.
to go outside of your limitations and to get more.
Yeah, again, going back to when she was a child, I just thought, wow, what a major
Yeah.
responsibility God has afforded me. How in the world am I going to
Mm-hmm.
fulfill this? And you learn you're not going to be perfect. You're gonna make some mistakes.
Right.
The 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 journey, part of the journey is about you just continually evaluating it and seeking God, saying, so what adjustments do I need to make in response to that?
Mm-hmm.
Because I get another chance.
Yes.
So,
That's the grace, right?
right, yeah, absolutely. So, as my children have grown, I made the commitment that I was going to again expose them and expose them to conversations and people, because the people I'm connected to give her an opportunity to dialogue all of them. And I started when they were very young. I think when they first hit middle school, taking them on my engagements to minister.
I remember I've seen them.
So if I'm going somewhere, like, and if I'm traveling out of town, I will take them so that they can go and see what it looks like and engage in conversations so that they learn how not to be afraid of those
Yes.
moments,
Yes.
and you just never know how God will set those moments up divinely to push them.
Absolutely. And it
Yeah,
is so beautiful to me when children are exposed to new things. It gives them a broader imagination. They can
absolutely.
see beyond whatever is in their right now. They know they've gone outside that circle, and they know, oh well, there's another option here, or
Mm,
there's another option there, or there are more things to explore. And that is important for me in the message of this entire effort I make.
mm,
It's about adventures with God. Don't
yeah.
limit God, be open, and know that there is always something more, something different. So
Mm,
now Sarah is a co-author with her
yeah.
dad. She's about to go into college, and I know you said before we wrap up, you said you're struggling.
I
You said I'm struggling. I'm not ashamed to admit it.
I am
Tell me
not.
what it's
I
like.
am not. So firstborn, and knowing, I mean, this started last year, recognizing this is the last year. So everything is the last. This is the last season of dancing. This is going to be the last coming up football game, the last prom.
So it's like you're grieving over and over and over and
Constantly,
over.
until her graduation recently. I was emotional. Both Sonia and I both were just emotionally spent, and now it's thinking about the drop off, and that's what I'm struggling with,
Uh-oh.
because you prepared them, and I know that my daughter is more than prepared. She's going to take the world by storm.
Amen.
I've spoken of my children's life
Yes.
from the day that they were born, and I've always said that we have something we recite every single night, together. I am beautiful. I am anointed. I am God's daughter. I will do great things. I am blessed. And we go over these things so that you affirm in them and they get the process of learning how to speak those things as though they were, life and death and power. So now I know she's prepared. It's me who's got to now, and me and the whole family, you got to adjust to a new season. And that's something, everything in life. You're constantly adjusting to new seasons. You're introducing new factors into it, to your life. And so, um, I'm prayerfully moving towards that moment, asking God to help me to hold it correctly, so that I give her what she needs, and um, don't consume that space of new beginnings for her with my grief.
Mm. Oh
You
my
know,
God.
so allowing her to be excited
Whew.
without having to try and coddle her dad and his
Oh
grieving.
my
You know
goodness.
what I'm saying? So
I
you got to
love how
hold
you
that.
phrase that because not just in graduations, but in so many places.
Mm,
I'm thinking now of someone I know who has been impacted in that way. And
mm,
without knowing it, sometimes parents, you stifle a person and hold them hostage in a space where it could be beautiful and you want them to launch, but your own grief or your own
yeah,
dysfunction or whatever it
yeah,
may be can arrest them in one space. And oh my God, I love how you
yeah,
said that. Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Thank you.
I want. It's her journey.
Yes.
I want her to know, I'm there, mom's there, we're there to support and help propel her.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
but I want her to experience the newness of this with her own emotions.
Amen.
And not have again always constantly worrying about ours. You
That
know.
is that's another level of emotional
Yeah,
intelligence too.
yeah,
That's just an
yeah,
awareness and a self-awareness that is
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
I'm sure she'll appreciate that
I
and
hope so.
celebrate with all of you. And
Yeah,
y'all gonna cry and
yeah.
bawl when you go.
We are, we are.
That's awesome. I am excited about the fact that first of all you were aware enough to go on this journey and make use of the time in
Mm,
quarantine and
yeah.
spend it investing in your children. But then we get blessed because you were sensitive to what Holy Spirit was prompting you to do. And thank you. Let me say this. Thank you, Sarah, for going on that journey because a lot of kids
Yeah.
sometimes they don't want to pray with my dad or spend all that
No,
time. And that's
no.
beautiful. It speaks to the relationship.
It does. And again, our children teach us so much. She taught me so much. And let me just share the biggest lesson. We
Please.
talked about this earlier, that my daughter taught me. The biggest piece that you get out of Closer to You is, as a dad or parent, you're always wanting to fix things. We get
Mm.
our identity, or our ego is enhanced in any capacity in our relationship by your ability as a man to solve problems.
Yeah.
So as I'm listening, I'm wanting to solve it. Now, how do I give the right answer? When Sarah said, I don't need you to do that. I just need you to listen and hear me, and hear what I'm feeling. When I learned that, that changed
That's
everything.
awesome.
Learn and listen.
That's
It'll
awesome.
change a lot for you.
And I would say, as we said earlier, in every area of life,
Every.
listening is important in
Yeah.
every relationship.
Yeah.
Starting with that of God, learning how to listen to the prompting of Holy Spirit and when God is directing you in spaces and places with people and how to
Yeah.
navigate that and adjust for meeting the needs of your children or your spouse or in your job,
Right.
wherever that may be. I am more grateful than I can express. I've had some surprises today. I definitely didn't plan on messing up my mascara. I'm gonna tell you that right now. I did not.
Thank God for the Holy
Um,
Spirit.
but it comforted me, and it is encouraging to me
Oh,
because I know there are people who long for what you have modeled. And it's a blessing to know that there are plenty of dads. I know that
mm,
you are one of many, and I'm
mm.
grateful, so grateful I got to talk to one of them
Oh,
and share this with all of you. So thank you. And I'm
thank
looking
you.
forward to talking with Sarah. I'm gonna make
Yes,
it a point. I
we're
know
gonna
she
make
could
it
not be
happen.
with us today, but I
Yeah,
have to give my little sister some shine time because I believe in that and I'm excited about her
and she's
future.
incredible. Her voice is amazing at this age. Yeah,
That's
so we
awesome.
can't wait. Spelman College, here she comes.
Uh-oh, y'all get ready. Look out for it. Look out,
Yeah,
look out. Well, thank you again,
thank
and
you.
to everyone who helped us here at the Luke. I hope you all can understand me through this. I hope you all have not just enjoyed this, but found something that you can apply to your life or pass on to another brother, a father, an uncle, a friend. I hope that you also will be encouraged if you are a pastor or leader at any stage in your pastorate. There are so many wonderful keys
Mm,
and gems that are not only in this stand book, but also in the book by Dr. Timothy Sloan and Sarah Sloan, Closer to You. I am looking forward to the great things that will happen. And I want to say again, shout out to you, Lady Sonia, Dr. Sonia, and to all of the Song family. Thank you for being such great, great models. Until next time, I'm hoping that you will continue to be intense and
mm.
intentional about the purposes for God in your life. This is Intensified Life TV with Dr. Lakeisha B. Ooh-wee. Thank you.
Fantastic. That was awesome. I'm
Yes, it was.
grateful. I'm grateful.
Yes, it was.
I
Thank you so
enjoyed
much.
that. I really did.
I'm glad. I hope
Yeah,
so. But I
yeah.
hope even more so that it comes through to bless somebody else because you bless me.
Thank
I'm grateful.
you.
I really am. I am very
Well,
grateful.
praise God for,
I really do try to be
yeah.
led, and this seemed like the perfect thing right now. So I